Hello, it's Carrie Rhoades here with CarrieStamps.com. Welcome to another crafting video. Today I am excited to be guest designing for Dare to be Artsy. They asked me to guest design for them and let me pick out a stamp set that I wanted to share with you. So I picked this Wishing You Happiness stamp set. I thought it would be really fun to play with. I love making my own backgrounds, so I thought it would be fun to do something different with this set than just coloring in these images. So we're going to start by stamping these beautiful images out onto some watercolor paper with clear pigment ink, and once those are stamped, I'm going to emboss it with clear embossing powder. So I'm using my Misty to do this work for me so I can get a nice crisp image. I did actually stamp these more than one time to make sure I had enough ink coverage. I might need to ink my stamp pad. And then I will add that clear powder and melt it with my heat tool. And you can see when it melts, it's practically invisible, but it makes for a really fun technique. We're going to be watercoloring over the top of this background. So I have a jar of water there. I did a little practice watercoloring before, that's why my water's not quite white. And then I have my ARTEZA watercolors. I love these. They are very vibrant in color, and so I've been enjoying playing with this set of watercolors a lot. We're just going to do a little wash of color over these stamped images. I picked some yellows and kind of pink colors for this background just to give it a warm, summery kind of feel. And I started out with my number 2 brush and realized that was a little bit too small for what I wanted to do. So I brought back in my flat brush, which I used to just wet the paper before I started, and I'm using that to apply these bright colors across my stamped images. And you can see how the stamped images then resist the paint and just make for a really cool effect. And I thought this was a really fun way to showcase these beautiful images, and I am really pleased with how it turned out. Now, I like my backgrounds to be a little bit, I don't know, messy and not perfect. I just like that look. I like splatters, and I like it to be a little bit imperfect. So I didn't tape it down. I just went for it. I just had fun. And I think that's what card making really should be about, is enjoying yourself and expressing yourself and bringing joy to others. And you can't really do that if you don't have fun making the card, right? So I took my number 2 round brush and used that to splatter on some water and give that a little bit more of a distressed look, and I'll pick that up with a paper towel. And because I love splattering so much, I'm going to bring in one of my other favorite things and add more splatter on top of this to give it even more of a fun look. So I will put my watercolors away and bring in a box to catch my splatters, and I'm going to use some gold silk. This is from Fun Stamper's Journey. It is sold at the Spellbinder shop, and this has such a nice gold metallic shimmer to it. And then I'm also using bubble gum, which it looks really dark when you first apply it, but after a minute, excuse me, when it dries, it has a really nice shimmer to it as well. So I love the splatter on there. Next, when that's all dry, I'm going to stamp my sentiment that says Wishing You Happiness and emboss that with gold embossing powder this time. And I just love how that gold pops off of this background. So a pretty simple card. I'm going to cut a little bit off of that so it measures 4 1/8 by 5 3/8, and then I'll mount that onto a top folding card that's pink. And because that's a little warpy from watercolor, I'm setting a heavy block on that to let it dry. And when that's said and done, I can add some gold sequins. I'm using my Tombow Aqua glue. I like this for sequins because if your glue squishes out the center of the sequin, it dries clear without a tacky finish, so it's the perfect glue for sequins. That finishes up card number 1. I love how it turned out. I love that kind of hand-drawn Zentangled look. I've tried it myself and I'm not good at it, so I love having stamps that I can get that hand-drawn Zentangled look. All right, for card number 2, we're going to do some more watercoloring. I'm wetting my watercolor panel And then going to do a wash over that, starting with purple across the bottom, and I'm going to work my way up to pink and then kind of that orangey yellow color. So again, I could have taped this down. I just already had these panels that measured 5.5 by 4 1/4, and so I decided just to go for it. I wasn't doing a ton of watercoloring, just a quick wash over it, so I felt okay about doing that. But really, when you do watercolor, it is nice to tape them down to a hardboard so you don't get this extreme paper warping when you're trying to paint. So there's a little tip if you're going to do some watercoloring, but maybe you're like me and you just have these panels and you want to go for it. Don't be afraid to do that either. And I love the purple. The addition of purple with these colors makes me so happy. I just love that dark color there at the bottom. So I'll wash that out all the way up to the top, and then I ran out of my stamp room and grabbed some salt before this dried and sprinkled that on my wet paint. It had dried a tiny bit, but when you add salt, just regular plain table salt, to your card, it absorbs some of that water and leaves a little bit of like an oxidized look. Like when you use Distress Oxide ink and you splatter it with water, it kind of gives a look like that. I learned this in high school art class, and it's stuck with me ever since. It's been a while since high school art. So at least I learned one thing, right? And I was able to apply it in my life. I feel really proud about that. So I'm going to take that flower from the stamp set, the round one, stamp and emboss that with gold powder, and then I'm going to do watercoloring in a different way. I'm going to bring out my ARTEZA brush markers, and I'll use those to apply water, or apply color, and then I'll bring in a water blending brush to blend those out. So I just looked for markers from that set that would coordinate with my watercolors. So I'm starting with that kind of purple color and going around the edge, and once I have that all on my flower, I can blend that out with my blending brush. I like to have a little paper towel on hand when doing this so I can tap off or rub off any color on the brush or squeeze out some water and dab it off if I get too much. Then I have this kind of corally pink color I brought in. It looks a little more red on the screen than I feel like it does look in real life. So I'm going to blend that out towards the purple. And this is so fun. Like, it's a fun way of coloring in this flower without having to pay a lot of attention to each of those little detailed pieces. And it's just kind of relaxing because you're not having to really focus on it, but just being more freeform. So it's fun. I like it. So I'm going to touch that up a little bit and blend it out some more where it needs it. And I will be done with that. And then it's time to cut this out. There is a die set for the stamp set. You can get that. I didn't get it, so I'm just going to fussy cut, but I don't mind fussy cutting on occasion. And it goes really quick on video when you can speed it up. So yeah. All right, so now on to the background. It's all dry, and I'm going to stamp out those images on top of it with clear pigment ink again. And I stamped these three, and I wanted to also stamp those leaves over there on the side. They didn't quite fit inside of my mini Misty, so I'm just going to stamp them afterwards. My regular size Misty already had something in it for another project. I couldn't be bothered to take it out, so I stamped this separate, embossed all of those with gold powder, and they look so fabulous on top of this background. I love it. Gold embossing powder just never gets old, does it? It's so magical. All right, so on to the splatter. I'm using those same silks again, which is bubblegum and gold, to splatter over the top of that because I love splatter. And that's it. I brought in some Distress Oxides that I thought coordinated really well with this background, and I'm going to stamp those solid images from the stamp set right over my watercoloring. So this is Seedless Preserves that I'm stamping the solid leaf branch. And then there's a little solid flower in here as well, and I'm using mustard seed. To be honest with you, I thought I had grabbed wild honey, but I just went for it. I pulled out this color and it worked just fine. but Wild Honey I feel like is really that golden yellow color I used, so it would be good for this background too. And then a little bit of picked raspberry, and I thought that flower that I colored was going to go right there in the center, but it covered up all that stamping I did, so I decided I liked the background how it was, and I'm going to use that flower I colored for a different purpose on this card. I'm stamping thank you with my Seedless Preserves Distress Oxide ink, and I'll ink that up a few times so that I have a good concentration of ink, and then I'll emboss that with clear powder to set that image and have it be raised up and shiny. I love that look. And that is the front panel of this card. I'm gluing that down to kind of a mustard colored card base. And again, I just trimmed my paper down to 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. So I have the skinniest little border all the way around. Now, sorry about this. I didn't realize I was a little bit low on the screen, but I took that mustard seed and that solid branch and stamped 2 of those at the bottom of the inside panel of my card. And that is where I'm going to put my flower. I thought it needed a little bit of gold splatter in there, so I did that, and once it was dry I decided the flower would look really good right there. So I glued that on, let everything dry, and then when that was all done, there you can see it, the leaves are really subtle in there. I just also thought, since I did something cute on the inside of one card, I better do something really cute for the inside of the first card. So I just stamped that round flower there in that picked raspberry. And there are the 2 cards. Of course, I needed a few sequins on the thank you card, which actually turned into 7 sequins, but that's okay. I had fun making it, and I think it just adds to the fun splattery look on this card. So I'll add those on to finish up card number 2. I love this stamp set so much. I'm going to be making a second video for you with this set, so you can look for that coming up very soon, and some new ideas with this set. I will also link below the Dare to Be Artsy shop so you can check out what they have to offer. And if you're new to my channel, I would love for you to subscribe. I have new videos all the time sharing my crafty creations with you, and I will be back again very soon with another video. Happy stamping and have a blessed week. Bye.